As Officer Parker mentioned, also present with me is Chief Teresa Ewens, also Captain Jake Dilsaver to my right, your left, who is in charge of our Special Victims Unit, who handles sexual assault victims of sex assaults of children. And that unit is responsible for this ongoing investigation. So the purpose of the press conference today is to provide some details into that investigation and also announce the arrest of Mensa, M-E-N-S-A-H, Gozo, G-O-Z-O, who is a 59-year-old male resident. He was originally arrested for kidnapping and sexual assault of a child. He has since been charged with one count of sexual assault of a child and one count of child enticement. In order to give some order to this press conference, I will make a few general comments about the timeline. I will turn it over to Captain Jake Dilsaver to talk about some of the resources that are available in our city. So on July 24th, Sunday at approximately 10 a.m., we were made aware of a missing person case in the area of First and Cornhusker. Officers responded and found that a 12-year-old girl had left the home and she had since not returned, and the parents were worried. We began relentlessly searching for her, and slightly before 12 noon that same day, she had been returned into the area of her home by Gozo. As part of the investigation, when youth are out of care of their parents or other responsible caregivers, we start to ask a series of questions, and it was based on that line of questioning and that trajectory of that investigation that led us to believe that the 12-year-old girl was transported someplace else in the city, was harmed, and ultimately we had determined that Gozo transported her to his home, subjected her to sexual contact and sexual penetration, and then ultimately returned her to the area of her home. Gozo was arrested later that day without incident, and he was transported to Lancaster County Jail, where again I mentioned he had been charged with kidnapping and sexual assault of a child. Since then, he has been charged in court with one count of sexual assault of a child and one count of child enticement. This investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to contact us at 402-441-6000. They can also remain anonymous if they wish to do so, and can contact Crime Stoppers at 402-475-3600. Before I turn it over to Captain Dilsaver to talk about the resources that are available in our community, I will say that the decision to come forward and do a press conference on this case is agonizing, because we are in the victim and survivor business. So our hearts and attention is really on the victim and the victim's family right now. However, we also recognize that this individual could be responsible for other cases. While we don't have details right now that we can share on that, or if any can be made available, we do want to make sure that the public is aware. And so anyone that's had any contact with Mr. Gozo is asked to come forward. Please keep and respect the privacy of the family at this time. Also, I'd like to turn it over to Captain Dilsaver to talk about the resources that are available for anybody that's suffering from sexual assault in our community.
Thank you. My name is Jake Dilsaver, the captain of the Special Victims Unit here at Lincoln Police Department. To assist at Chief Stilley's point, these are difficult cases. The effects are long-standing, from victims, families, survivors of abuse. There are a lot of resources that are locally available. The Child Advocacy Center is a great place to start. Department of Health and Human Services. We have Hope Spoke here. We have Voices of Hope. The Friendship Home, and the police department here has a victim assistance unit that would be available as well. I'd be remiss not to mention the great work of a lot of police officers Sunday morning that were helping look for this child. The investigators in the Special Victims Unit that have been working tirelessly since this case on Sunday morning. And we again just reiterate the request to be considerate for the families that are involved in these kind of cases. Thank you.
And with that concludes our prepared remarks. If anybody has any questions
What would be your advice for parents, if they want to talk with their children about some of, like, potential risks or just the things that happen out there? If they happen to see this on the news, what would be your message to parents about how they can approach that conversation?
I think, I would say, and certainly Jake can chime in, that, it really does start before the event. You need to have an open dialogue with your kids about a number of things. This is just one of those many things, is what to do if someone approaches you, who you can talk to, and, if something happens to them, and just keep that open dialogue. But certainly, if Jake has anything to add, he can certainly do so.
You said did this guy know this gal at all, or the family at all?
As part of the investigation, we look into any prior relationship, and at this time, we haven't established one, but that doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. So the investigation does continue, and that's one of the aspects that we're training him around.
So do you think this guy was just cruising around looking for somebody to kidnap?
At this time, that's pretty much the trajectory that the investigation is taking, but I don't have enough details to say that that's absolutely the case.